Are Fimir Warriors any good in patch 6.1.4? I'd heard these received a fair bit of disdain over the years, but I'm happy to take a fresh look, and while Throg adds some nice extra benefits, the real value of the unit should be for any old chieftain. So, how do they fare? Recruited for 1200 gold and 300 upkeep. On Ultra, this gets you 16 entities at 8,224 health. That's 514 per. Armor is 110 with missile resistance, 25% from scaly skin, so these are not soft whatsoever. Leadership of 70 isn't low, especially when you consider trolls exist. Speed 45 is not the worst, charge speed 65 is quite interesting, but ogres are faster. Melee attack begins at 30, but each hit is not only magical attack, but inflicts sundered armor from the stock default unit. That gets my attention. Attack interval 3.8 is a little faster than normal, melee splash target medium means Reichsguard on down, and max target's damage 4 is like Kroxigor's default version, so they tend to spread the damage and the sundering. We'll talk more about this later. Melee defense starts at 42, and there's a lot worse out there for monstrous infantry. Weapon strength 100 is split base 32 and armor piercing 68, but unlike ice trolls, which do more damage period, there's a bonus versus infantry of 15, a mild help to damage, and a 50% boost to default melee attack, so that's very useful. Charge bonus is 25, far from the best, and mass is 1500. This Caesar attacker has hide enforced, causes fear, and has the passive From the Mist, granting 25% more missile resistance, so long as leadership is over 50% of base, and it'll stay higher with a unit taking less damage. The Great Weapons version is recruited for 1300 gold and 325 upkeep. The stats are otherwise identical until we get down to attack interval, which climbed back up to the standard 4. Not being worse than the industry average is no knock. Splash targets actually fell to 2 maximum, which means the Great Weapons will tend to kill rather than merely maim. Melee defense starts 10 worse at 32, which is still no worse than Empire Swordsman. Weapon strength is still 100, split base 32, and armor piercing 68, but what's this? A bonus versus large of 25? This is where they were hiding it. This is like having minotaurs with great weapons or something. Naturally, no bonus versus infantry here. Charge bonus is ever so slightly better at 28, and mass is 1500 again. The traits are exactly the same, including From the Mist. In the Redline skills, it's actually Monsters of the North, not the one that affects trolls, granting at 3 pips melee attack plus 6 and melee defense plus 6, and that's something these warriors really benefit from. Hulks of Death would grant rank 7 ones armor plus 12, weapon strength plus 12%, and ward save 8% for extra tankiness. In the tech tree, Chaos Surge grants recruitment cost minus 5% and charge bonus plus 10%, and Ice-Blooded Strength subtracts an additional 10% from recruitment cost and slaps on weapon strength plus 10%. This is basically all you get. As mentioned before, Throg has some big benefits for Fimir, but that's in his army only. For general use, this is what you get. So, how do we use Fimir Warriors? Yeah, about that. Do you know how many factions would sacrifice firstborn children for a unit with armor sundering that's not even a regiment of renown? I mean, yes, Dark Elves would sacrifice ones not their own, but even setting that aside, we need to consider not just the direct benefits of the unit, but, let's say, pairing one with a couple of units of Norscan Berserkers with their gigantic base weapon strength. Of course, that makes for a narrower battle line rather than a huge broad one, but the buzzsaw through the enemy's lines will be much more powerful. I suppose the ideal for the other case is using great weapons with Marauder Spearmen, but the presence of 1500 mass per entity when a unit gets 16 of these guys means that enemy chariots will come crashing to a halt fast. This is not Surtha X's idea of a good time. The other thing, it's not like speed 45 is enough to do mad flanks anyway. Trolls actually need to be reined in consciously. With Fimir, it's naturally part of your deployment. Also, if they get a little ahead of your infantry and take some missile fire, they're much better suited to resist it than a lot of monstrous infantry, so that's often good for you. A way to make your squishy infantry survive to make contact. Of course, sometimes you'll just plain want the infantry to take those shots to dilute the damage. That depends on your specific needs. Point being, I thought these would be a problem, but good lord, there's a lot of Norscan units that do base damage, and even the more armor-piercing ones still do some level of base damage anyway. There's almost nowhere armor sundering is bad. Against zero armor units like Flagellants, it's bad in the sense it does nothing, but then the Flagellants, for their unbreakable fanaticism, are eating damage from every source you have. In virtually every other scenario, they are making your weapons hit harder. Of particular importance is what we covered with the Marauder Hunter videos about the Javelin's unit being inefficient against large targets if they have armor beyond a certain threshold. I threw 60 out as a ballpark figure. Reducing 60 to 30 means that the Javelins are doing completely outsized damage compared to how that matchup should go. Fimir are going to get shot, but being resistant to that means they'll last a lot longer than they otherwise have any right to, especially since outside of Throg mid-game and his army only, they do not have regeneration. So, make them count, and remember it's not what Fimir can do alone, it's how their bashing can help the rest of your force, a force which is much more offensive than defensive, rip into your foes. Take care, and have fun making Empire Swordsmen feel like flagellants for the Warhounds coming to nip at their heels. That will be fun, but only for one side.